mods you can do for free to your RSF / MX650. So, there's a reason we're only talking about the RSF 650 and the MX 650. Because aside from the Pro Spec, these are the biggest ones. And nothing against the green or the red one, the SX 500 and MX 500. They're just a little small for me and my friend group. With that being said though, there's a lot that these two have in common, as well as their obvious differences, which is why we'll be talking about them one at a time and telling you what you can do on the other as we go. If one has something in common with the other, I think you get what I mean. A lot of this might seem awful elementary to some of y'all, but make sure to stay tuned to the end because I cover everything. I talk about it all. I'd be surprised if I don't mention something y'all didn't know. There's just actually so much you can do to these to change the appearance and actions of the bike that I think it's foolish not to talk about them. Plus, if I'm being honest, my crazy kart mods you can do for free ended up being one of my best videos yet to date, so why not talk about what we can do to these for free while we're at it. Now notice how I didn't say performance though? That's because that generally costs money. With that being said, use code TJTRAVELZ 5 at Electro and Co to save yourself some scratch. So the RX-7 first, RSF. Not a bad idea though. I wish. Obviously, there's quite a lot that's been done to this. This thing's been modded to Beijing and back. If you get it, you get it. Some will understand. Not everything has been done to this. There's more parts to come. Like, I have an aftermarket seat that's going to cover the whole thing. A front fork. But with that being said, this is what it looks like with the black thingies back in it that it comes with stock from the factory. I just like it better with them out. Plus, not only do I think it looks better without the black pieces, if you're going to mod this platform particularly, although this applies to both, generally speaking, you're going to end up getting real acquainted with the screw patterns and where they're located for this white part. And you'll slide it out to put your wires and controller in here. And in that process, you have to remove these anyway. So, the rear plastics. There's an under piece and a top piece. They look like this. I just don't like the way these look. I ain't even gonna lie to you. That's why these are zip tied on at the moment. But you might as well take them off anyway, because the very first time you loop out, you're gonna break all this. You could very easily avoid that just by taking it off. In the event you ever decide to sell the bike or something, you still got the OG plastics. This is probably the perfect opportunity to also mention that it came with the bottom plastics on too, just like the MX650 currently still has. But again, if you're going to put a big enough battery on these, that's got to go. Some people have figured out a way to keep those because it's important to them for whatever reason. They like the way it looks. I don't. Speaking of such. But yes, it did come with the plastics on down there. I just recommend taking that off in general to help everything breathe better. Even if you're still running on stock components, there's stuff in there. I mean, the motor's always here, but it's often covered by plastic. So why not let it breathe? Now the front fender. Mounts up right here to these brackets. Not exactly something I'm a fan of just because I think it looks cheesy and corny, but it does serve a purpose. But you can take it off, make it look better. I also have this problem and do this to every bike. I take the front fender off. On the Sur-Ron, I feel like it makes it look less like a dirt bike and more like a mountain bike, but on this there's probably no reason other than looks, because the second you take this off, you gotta be prepared to maybe eat a rock or two here and there coming up at you. Now the rear fender. Not exactly something I would recommend taking off, but it is a possibility. Ooh. I'm gonna need a new GoPro soon, guys. I keep hitting my helmet and cameras off everything. You do not get that on the MX650, a rear fender, but that's kind of because the body covers that. Like this protects so much. Anybody that's done a bunch of burnouts on an upgraded one of these or stock after pulling the brake sensors knows once you get this tire warm enough, it's picking up everything you run over for the next minute or two. So unless you do a burnout and sit still for 2 minutes, you pick up all that road debris and grime and rocks and stuff. This fender, riding so close to the tire, does a really good job at kicking all those rocks off. There's been a couple of times I thought I lost my chain because of the way it sounded, but it was really just the rocks hitting the bottom of this before coming up. And I mean, not having the plastics on the back too, it's like I'm kind of at the whim of whatever spits up. So thank goodness for this rear fender. But just saying, another possibility. Moving along now, folks. Almost getting there and swapping bikes. But I want to mention, because this is very versatile to all razors, not even just these two, the handlebars are very swappable. Not to call it a free mod, but if you happen to have a pair of BMX bars kicking around, they will probably fit 99% of the time. And the only reason I bring this up is because the RSF came with bars that were so low, I'd hit my knees off them. And my crazy cart's in the way. Now that I have upgraded ones, I'm leaving them on and not fiddling with it until I do the front fork. So I will demonstrate on the other bike. Now, speaking of demonstrating on the other bike, there is quite a lot we've done to this that I didn't mention. But I feel like I touched on most of it, even if briefly, like brake sensors, stickers. Save the one with the serial number, just in case anything should ever happen. You know when it was made. You know what to tell Razor if you have to call in. That's why I say hang on to those stickers. Yeah, that's just something we already did on this bike. But kind of like how that looks. We're only partially through the de-stickering, and I just want to mention, as soon as you pull a lot of the red off, it starts to look a lot better. Look at that. I gotta still take this front one off. This might come off without the heat gun. Some of these might. I know those just came off a lot easier for me with that heat gun. So much better looking. No, that's not coming off very easy. Plus, it's very dirty. Leaving mine on, but that is the sticker with my product number, my barcode, and everything. But normally I'd pull that off and put that on the owner's manual. Oops, one more. Ah, it's dirty down here too. Next, the plastics on the MX650, which I would actually like to start over here with the number plate. Now this does serve a purpose. I probably wouldn't be taking it off if it wasn't for, well, the sake of this video, but it is another way to change the look, for sure. And then we've also got this bolt with one underneath. I'm actually going to be using the stock toolkit for this as much as possible, just to prove it's worth hanging on to these. Yep, Allen on the bottom. Sorry if the orientation changes on the camera while we're doing this, guys. And once it's loose, it'll come out real easy. Now I will say, without taking the whole bike apart and everything off, either the handlebars or the controller, this isn't coming off forever. At least not right now. But you can tell that changes the look quite a bit. Again, a little bit less dirt bikey. Matter of fact, Let's talk about the front fender while we got things apart. Like, talk about a change in look. Having no front fender, and I mean, I did lean the number plate back against the fork for now, but having no front fender makes it look a lot less like a dirt bike, even though we still got those plastics that make it look like a dirt bike. Now for the plastics, there is so many options. Like, weird. Just the gas tank and seat. I'll be holding you. And with no gas tank, just the seat, plastics and fenders gone, except for these. And this is the MX650 without its bottom plastics. Unfortunately, I will have to put those back on. That's where your charge port is and your on-off switch. I almost called it a kill switch. At least until you mod it. This does lead us into our next free mod. While we got these off, brake sensors. Now those are right down here. These were just for the harness and the on-off switch, the charge port. These will get reconnected once the plastics are back on. You know, arguably, if you're willing to do some fabricating, you can make this work. But the kill switch, or sorry, on-off switch and charge port were glued on. I didn't want to kind of like these. I didn't want to risk screwing them up. Not right now. But these are your brake sensors. You know how you tell? You either trace your wires, or all there is a black and a red. This is more important. Leave that one alone. I only bring that up because if you trace the 3 wires that are your brakes and sensors, these 3, it leads you down to these. Leave that one alone. But these are your brake sensors. Let me show you why you might want to do that. Dude, it's so easier now. Oh, kickstand's still down. But yes, that's why brake sensors. It does make wheeling a lot easier because this thing lacks the power that's needed to pop it up. And being able to use your brake to kind of feather that really helps. Plus, if you want to do burnouts. But another thing you can do, we mentioned being able to do this to the RSF, but we never demonstrated, is handlebars. Chances are, if you got them, they'll fit. See? BMX bars. Now obviously these aren't staying on. I'm not disconnecting my brakes, throttle, all that stuff. We're not doing that today. At least not for something like this. But soon enough, why not? Because we got a kit coming. Well, actually, I already have it, but we got it coming to the channel. And these are old RSF bars. I don't know why you'd ever want to do this. They're a little low on the RSF, but the stock bars on this, the MX650, come a little high in my opinion. So, if you got them, why not swap them? No, in all seriousness, this is just to demonstrate how easy it is to switch the bars on these, and that if you happen to have a better pair of bars or some that you like more, like a certain sweep that you prefer, they probably fit. I mean, this one's got an old key ignition attached to nothing. Voltmeter. Yeah, these aren't staying on either. Another thing, another free mod you can do to the MX650, very specific to this one. But there's 2 different settings down here. I already got Allen's in them for the suspension. It comes set up for this one, but the other one is for a taller setting. We'll do it in a minute. But anyway, this is it. Stock. So, before and after. A little bit higher. Splitting hairs here, I know. But another free mod. See this real quick though, folks? It's as easy as 2 Allens and a screw. So we got the black plastics back on. Woo! In order to have our charge port and our on-off switch. But with the brake sensors out, it's a lot of fun. It's just still very slow. See? With the brake sensors out, it's a lot of fun. It's just still very slow. See?
Thanks so much for staying tuned until the end, guys. I think you know by now how much of a blast I have making these. This was clearly just to demonstrate that the bike is still slow, but I think it's so cool the amount of things you can do to both the RSF and the MX650 straight out of the box. If you can think of more things, I encourage y'all to leave them in the comments below, please. And also, here's a quick little rip, Mode 1 from Cruise Cam on that 76-volt RSF. Right onculus for Mode 1. But make sure and stay tuned until next video, where we do up that MX650 from bottom to top.